And we are back, and we just finished watching 2021's Petite Maman from director Céline Sciamma, with writing credits to Céline Sciamma. This we caught on Hulu and clocks in at 1 hour and 13 minutes and is rated PG. This is the story of a young girl named Nelly, whose grandmother has just recently passed away, and her mother and her father and herself go to, I guess, the grandmother's house to, I guess, clear out. And while she's there, she meets another little girl very, very similar to herself named Marion, and the bond that they form and the experiences that they have. And then something kind of wondrous is revealed. And then I guess the story wraps up from there, because you don't really find that piece of the puzzle out till almost the end.
Yeah,
although there are little hints at it.
Yeah, there's little hints at it. I think mainly the story is just about like dealing with grief.
Yes. Ultimately, this is a story about how young people, I guess, deal with grief and the effects of grief. Because in the one hand, you have Marion's story, who she has a mother who has like this pre-existing condition that impacts her health.
And she's going to have it.
She's going to have it too, unless she has a surgery. Yes. And then you have Nelly's story, who her grandmother just recently passed. They were very close. She loved her very, very much. And
her mom is not taking it very well.
Yes,
either.
I was going to say, but her mom is very much impacted by the death of her own mother. And I guess she also is dealing with depression that comes up a little bit, that she's sad.
Yeah, her mom is having a tough time dealing with the death of her mother. So like to the point where she can't even stick around for the clearing of the house. She leaves, and her husband is the one who ends up having to clean up the place. Yeah. And while that's going on,
Nelly's out having her adventures.
Nelly goes out into the woods. The house is in like sort of a remote area. Nelly goes out into the woods, and there she finds Marion building like a hut, a little hut out of sticks.
What'd you think?
I thought it was good.
It's probably not something you would seek out.
It's not something I would seek out normally, but it told its story well. I liked that there was a little bit of a twist there. Mm-hmm. I thought the performances of the little girls were...
Little girls, because they're twins.
They're twins, yeah.
But it's funny because side by side, they're like a mirror.
They're a mirror, but they differentiate them enough where you could tell who's who.
Right.
But they both of them did well, and it really is sort of like it's a slow movie. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't say bad slow.
No,
it's slow in that it's impactful in the way that
the story unfolds.
You see how the story is unfolding. You see how these people are dealing with the situation that they're in. You see the relationship between the two girls and how
their situations mirror
not only mirror each other, but how they help each other through those situations, and the realization of what is actually occurring in this point in time.
I agree. I'd heard about this film. It had been on my list to watch. I'm glad that we watched it. This is Women's History Month. We wanted to get in. I want to try and do all women directors. We'll see how good I get to that end goal. And this is a foreign film. This is French. We don't typically do foreign films, much to my chagrin. I'd like to get more of that. Maybe I'll try to be more intentional about our choices going forward, but it's nice when we do something that's a little bit different than the norm. I think that this is different than what we're used to. And
usually when we're watching a foreign film, somebody's being kicked.
Right. I was going to say, yes. Yes, people are being just annihilated with a barrage of hands and feet. But I think this is definitely not something that we would typically watch. And it's a very sweet, beautiful, lovely film. I mean, it's, to your point, it's absolutely the story of loss and grief and
dealing with that grief.
And dealing with that.
Coming to terms with it.
And also relying on your family to kind of be that balm in such trying times. Marion's going through her situation, her health scare. I'm sure she says she's 8 years old, so I'm sure she's incredibly scared of the prospect of this surgery, what it could mean, what if it goes wrong. I mean, these are all things that you would obviously think of, but compounded by the fact that she's such a young child.
Yeah.
And then to Nelly's point, she is the daughter of someone who's struggling immensely right now with the death of her own mother, to the point where she just has to remove herself completely. Nelly's kind of left to her own devices. The husband's trying to be a good partner by trying to help his wife by taking on the responsibility of cleaning up or cleaning out the house so that either they can sell it or move on from there. So a lot is going on in the lives of these young children, and yet because they have this commonality, they're able to connect and offer comfort to each other in their own little ways, whether it's an invitation to come over and have a snack, or playing make-believe and creating these fantastical situations, or just hanging out, running in the rain, helping to build the fort, whatever it is. And it's lovely. And I do agree with you. It is kind of like a slow burn, but its heart is in the right place. And I think if you stick with it, the rewards at the end are very marvelous. I think, and I agree with you, I think the two actresses, Joséphine and Gabrielle, I think are the names, just do a magnificent job. It's always gratifying to see young actors being so good, because the alternative is not that great, but here it works, and both girls just do a lovely, magnificent job of portraying their characters, and it comes through. You don't see the mother very much, but she gives a very heartbreaking good performance as well. I found the dad endearing because he's really trying, and like a lot of people, a lot of parents, you second guess yourself and you're hoping that you're doing the right things. But I think he's a good dad. I think that definitely comes through. I believe that he loves his daughter very, very much. I think I turned to you at one point, and one of my favorite scenes in this film is when Nelly asks him to be honest with her, to tell her what scares him. And he leans in and he whispers that his father. Mm-hmm. And I was just completely swept up in that scene, and that really resonated with me, because I think as a child, especially as a child that comes up in maybe not such a healthy home environment, maybe a little domestic violence, whatever, I think that sentence really resonates and is kind of a gateway to conversation about the traumas of childhood and stuff like that. And as an adult, having survived those instances, you hopefully try to make better for your future and for your children. So I think that, at least for me, I mean, the father could have severed heads in his freezer at home. I didn't get that impression, but
he was a sweet guy.
He definitely came across as a good, decent father, husband, person. So that was nice. And it's, again, he's not the focal point of the story. The children are, but I like those little nuances and those little layers that add to the story. I don't think anything is wasted here. I think everything.
No, I think everything is written and said with an intention. Even just the way everything's framed and blocked. Mm-hmm. And this is the kids' show, though. This,
for sure.
As good as the father is in his role and the mother is in her, they're minor characters. It really is just the kids' show.
Absolutely.
They're directed and guided in their performance, and it's good, because a lot of times you're stuck with like a movie where the kid's the main focal point, and it's just sort of like, okay,
yeah,
this is just garbage. But no, this was good. These kids were conveying or carrying themes that were that's something that's usually carried by adult characters.
Sure. And the topic too, if you think about it, grief and loss and dealing with these emotions. It's funny, I'm watching it and I was thinking about Pixar, like how would Pixar have handled something like this, right? But it's done here in a way that's universal. I don't think that you need to learn French to understand these themes and to have some kind of empathy and relatability to these themes. I think this is something that touches everyone. And it's nice to see it from the vantage point of these two little girls. And I also love that it's a woman filmmaker and it's French. Again, this is not something that we normally tag to review. This is something that's kind of off the beaten path for us.
Yeah, I've never heard of this movie. So.
Yeah, I had heard of it. And it was like on my incredibly long list of things to watch. And I'm glad that we got to it. I think in honor of women's history, it's nice to be able to put something like this up to see it and to digest it and then put it up for review so that maybe we can get more eyes on this particular story. I think it's really, really well done. Again, it's not flashy. It's not boom, boom. It's not any of that. But there is this just beauty in the simplicity of the story and the performances. Well, I wouldn't say simplistic performances, but just it very much is kind of a slice of life movie because you're dealing with these everyday topics of death and loss. But there is like this magic to it because there's an element here that I don't want to give too much away that really makes this story even more impactful.
Yeah.
Did that take you out when you realized what's ultimately going on?
No.
Did you have any idea?
In the beginning, no. I didn't know what was occurring. I mean, you watch it. It's not like the film's trying to be coy or anything.
No. It
once
tells
once you realize what's happening, you realize what's happening, and it's just part of the story. You just go with it. Mm-hmm. The device is well used. Yeah. It helps convey the story. It helps move the story along. It helps understand all the characters, even the characters that aren't there. The writing for this is sharp.
And what an interesting way of telling this particular story. This is a story, like I said before, that impacts everyone. Grief and death and loss. This impacts everyone, whatever your station in life, whatever language you speak, whatever socioeconomic situation you're in. Everyone has been touched by loss and grief.
Everyone is going to go through this at some point in their lives.
Right.
But
the way that story's presented here is really interesting and really fresh. And to your point, just a really good script. I mean, there's a million ways to tell this story, but the way that this filmmaker tells it adds this extra layer of...
It just makes it interesting.
Yes. I was trying to find the right word, but yeah, it does make it makes it fresh and interesting.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
No, I don't think we should really deep dive into this as much as we could because people watching it should watch it and see it and experience it as it happens.
With fresh eyes.
It's not a long film, hour and 13 minutes.
No, that's very short.
That's short compared to most films, yeah. The story is, like I said, it's well told. It is a slow building story, but it's not a boring story. Everybody does a great job. What would you give this?
I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give this an 8.
I'd probably give it a 7.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I want to take a brief moment and thank everyone who donated to my sleep out. This is the weekend of the Covenant House sleep out. And I wanted to give a shout out to Melissa and Shay and Jack and Sujung and Mian and Erica and KT and Sarah W and Stephen S and Nick and Zach and my 3 anonymous donors. I don't know who you are, but I love you all very, very much. I am so touched and humbled. This Sleep Out is dedicated to you and your generosity and support, your empathy and compassion for kids in crisis. Covenant House is an organization that has existed for many, many years, and I am humbled and ready to take on this challenge of giving my bed up for one night to be in solidarity with youth that are in crisis and facing homelessness. So again, from me and our group, thank you so much to our donors. We really appreciate it. And we are so very thankful for you guys. And again, before we wrap up, we watched Petite Maman from 2021. This is rated PG. There's no cursing. I mean, this is
PG.
There's
There's nothing negative or offensive about this movie
or traumatic about it. It does deal with death and grief and loss, but it's done in a very sensitive and just lovely, lovely way. We saw this on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
It clocks in at 1 hour and 13 minutes. If you have Hulu, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Again, from filmmaker Céline Sciamma. And that's it from us. Remember to like, subscribe, or follow and share. Thank you. And
good night.
Good night.